Muhammad Ali had faced down the most dangerous men on earth. He had stared into the eyes of giants and never blinked. But that day, on a quiet road in rural Georgia, it wasn't a man that stopped him. It was a sign, a cheap, handmade sign in a dusty diner window. Whites only, no colored served. And the moment Ali saw it, something inside him snapped. Not loud, not explosive, not like a punch. It was worse than that. It was the kind of anger that turns cold, the kind of anger that thinks. And when Muhammad Ali started walking toward that diner, his crew already knew. This wasn't going to end quietly. Because Ali didn't just fight with fists. Ali fought with his soul. And in the next 10 minutes, he was about to do something that would leave an entire diner in tears. It was the summer of 1974. Just 3 months after Ali shocked the world in Kinshasa, Zaire, when he dropped George Foreman like a fallen statue and reclaimed the heavyweight title in the legendary Rumble in the Jungle. The whole world was chanting his name. He was bigger than boxing now. A global symbol. A walking storm. A man who had been hated, banned, mocked, and still rose higher than anyone thought possible. At 32 years old, Muhammad Ali had the belt again. He had the spotlight. He had the power. And in that moment, he was driving through one of the most racist stretches of America. Ali was traveling from Atlanta to a speaking event in a small Georgia town. Nothing glamorous. No stadium. No massive crowd. Just a small engagement a few hours away. He wasn't dressed like a champion. No robe. No gloves. No ring lights. Just a man in a car riding through the heat. With his usual crew. His longtime friend and photographer. His trainer, Dundee. And his assistant, the loud, energetic, always hyping Brown. They'd been on the road for almost 2 hours. The sun was beating down hard. The air inside the car was thick. And everyone was getting hungry. Later said it best. Ali was hungry, and we were looking for some place to eat. That was it. Just hunger. Just a normal human need. And then they saw it. A diner sitting alone on the side of the road. A small, worn-down place. The paint was peeling. The parking lot was dirt. The kind of diner you'd only stop at if you had no other choice. And in the window was a sign that didn't belong in 1974. Not legally. Not morally. Not in any decent society. But it was there. Plain as day. Handwritten. Bold. Like the owner wanted people to see it. Whites only, no colored served. Saw it first. His voice changed instantly. Champ, keep driving. That place ain't for us. Dundee leaned forward from the back seat. Ali, come on, man. We'll find somewhere else. This ain't worth it. Held his breath. Because Ali wasn't speaking. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't making jokes. He was staring at that sign like it had insulted his mother. Like it had called him less than human. And the longer he stared, his jaw became. Could see it. That look. That same look he'd seen before Ali stepped into the ring. That look that said, I've made up my mind. And nothing you do, nothing you say, nothing you beg, is going to change what happens next. Then Ali reached for the door handle. Click. The door opened. Hot Georgia air rushed in. And before anyone could stop him, Muhammad Ali stepped out of the car. "Oh man," muttered. And he grabbed his camera. "Here we go." Jumped out next. Followed. They weren't just following a man anymore. They were following a storm. And the storm was walking straight into a place built on hate. The bell above the door rang when Ali entered. Ding, ding. And just like that, every conversation inside the diner died. Forks stopped moving. Coffee cups froze in midair. Even the radio playing softly in the background sounded like it got quieter. There were about 15 people inside. All white, all staring. Some looked confused. Some looked angry. A few looked excited, like they were hopping today would be entertainment. And there, behind the counter, stood the owner, a big man in his 50s. Greasy apron, thick arms, a face burnt by sun and hardened by bitterness. His name was Earl Miller, and he'd run this place the same way his father did. And his father before him. 3 generations of Millers, serving food to white folks, and turning away black folks like they were stray animals. Earl's eyes went wide when he recognized Ali. For half a second, there was something like excitement in his expression. Muhammad Ali, the champion, the most famous athlete in the world, standing in his diner. But then Earl remembered where he was. He remembered who he was. He remembered what his sign said. And whatever excitement was there turned into stone. His voice came out loud and sharp. "We don't serve your kind here." The diner stayed silent. Earl pointed toward the window. "Can't you read the sign?" Muhammad Ali didn't flinch. He didn't get loud. He didn't throw a punch. He didn't even look angry. He just walked forward slowly, like he owned the floor beneath his feet. And when he spoke, his voice was calm, almost friendly. "I can read just fine," Ali said. "In fact, I've read a lot of things." Earl narrowed his eyes, still trying to show power. Ali continued, "I've read the Constitution of the United States. I've read the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And I've read the N, which teaches me that all men are brothers, no matter the color of their skin." A few people shifted in their seats. A woman near the window swallowed hard. Earl's face tightened. "I don't care what you read," he snapped. "This is my property, and I got a right to refuse service to anyone I want. Now get out before I call the sheriff." Ali stood there, still calm, still steady, and then he smiled. That's what shook everyone, because the smile wasn't weak. It wasn't nervous. It was the smile of a man who knows exactly what he's about to do. Ali tilted his head slightly. "You know who I am?" he asked. Earl scoffed. "Yeah, I know who you are. You're Cassius Clay, the boxer." Ali's smile stayed, but his eyes sharpened. "Muhammad Ali," he corrected gently. "And you're right. I am a boxer. In fact, I'm the heavyweight champion of the world." The room felt smaller. Even the air felt. Ali took one step closer. "3 months ago," he said, "I beat George Foreman. A man everybody said couldn't be beaten. I've fought the toughest men on earth. And I've won most of those fights." Earl crossed his arms like he wasn't impressed. "So what?" Ali leaned forward slightly. "My point is, I could walk behind that counter right now, and there ain't nothing you could do to stop me." He let the words sit. The diner froze. Ali continued, still calm. "I could knock you down with one punch. I could tear down that sign. I could make you regret every hateful thing you've ever done. You could feel it. The fear." Earl's hand drifted under the counter. Toward something. Maybe a bat. Maybe worse. Stomach tightened. Shoulders rose. Dundee's eyes darted. Because they all knew. This could turn ugly in 1 second. But Ali didn't move. He didn't tense up. He didn't threaten. Instead, he softened, and he said something nobody expected. "But I'm not gonna do that." Earl blinked. Ali smiled again. "Because I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to talk to you. I'm here to ask you a question." Earl's hand stopped moving under the counter. "What question?" Earl asked. Ali's voice dropped, quieter now. But every word hit like a hammer. I want to know, who taught you to hate? And in that moment, for the first time in years, Earl Miller didn't look powerful. He looked exposed, like a man who had spent his whole life hiding behind a sign. And now someone finally walked through the door and forced him to face himself. And that's where Ali began the real fight. Not with fists, not with violence, but with truth. And once Ali started talking, there was no going back. Earl Miller stared at Muhammad Ali like he'd been slapped. Not because Ali raised his voice, not because he threatened him, but because of that question. Who taught you to hate? It wasn't a boxing question. It wasn't a political speech. It wasn't some rehearsed line for the cameras. It was a question that dug under the skin and found something ugly hiding there. Earl swallowed hard, his throat moving like he was choking on his own pride. For a few seconds, he didn't answer. He just stood there behind the counter, arms crossed, trying to look bigger than he felt. But Ali didn't rush him. Ali didn't push. Ali just waited. And somehow, that quiet was louder than any argument. Finally, Earl's eyes flicked toward the window, toward the sign, toward the people sitting in his diner. Then back to Ali. My daddy, Earl said, almost like it was a fact of nature. My daddy taught me that whites and colored don't mix. That's just how things are. Ali nodded slowly, like he'd expected that answer. And who taught your daddy? Ali asked. Earl's face tightened. His jaw worked. He looked like he wanted to say, none of your business. But he couldn't, because the question wasn't insulting. It was honest. My granddaddy, Earl muttered. Ali nodded again. And who taught your granddaddy? Earl's eyes narrowed. You trying to make me feel stupid? He snapped. Ali's smile never left. No, Earl, he said gently. I'm trying to make you think. That line hit the diner like lightning. People shifted in their seats. A man near the back scoffed quietly. A woman by the window lowered her eyes. Because they all knew what Ali was doing. He wasn't attacking Earl. He was holding up a mirror. And Earl didn't like what he saw. Ali leaned against the counter like he had all the time in the world. Like he was talking to someone he actually cared about. You know what I see? Ali asked. I see a man who ain't been allowed to have his own mind. Earl's face flushed red. I got my own mind, he snapped. Ali tilted his head. Then why you using your daddy? Hatred. That silence again. That thick, uncomfortable silence. Ali turned slightly, looking around the diner. He spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. How many of y'all grew up hearing the same thing Earl just said? Nobody raised their hand. But nobody at either. Because the truth didn't need permission. It just hung in the air. Ali looked back at Earl. Earl, let me tell you something about my life. He paused. Can I call you Earl? Earl didn't answer. But he didn't stop him. And that was the first crack. Ali's voice softened. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, he said. When I was 12 years old, my bicycle got stolen. A few people blinked, confused. Why was the champion talking about a bicycle? Ali continued. And I was so mad, he said. I told a police officer I wanted to beat up whoever took it. Some people chuckled lightly. Ali smiled. That officer told me, you better learn how to fight first. And he brought me to a gym. And that man taught me how to box. Ali let the moment sit. Then he said it. You know what's interesting about that officer, Earl? Earl stared. Ali nodded once. He was white. It was like someone turned the lights on inside the diner. A few people looked surprised. Earl's lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Ali continued, steady and calm. The man who changed my life, who helped me become who I am, was a white man. Ali pointed behind him. And my trainer right here, he said, gesturing to Dundee. He's white. Lifted a hand slightly, almost embarrassed. Ali kept going. Some of my best sparring partners were white. Some of my toughest opponents were white. And you know what I learned? He leaned forward. White people ain't all the same. And black people ain't all the same. There's good and bad in every color. Earl's mouth tightened. That's different, he muttered. Ali's smile faded just a little. No, he said firmly. It ain't different. They're just people. Earl shook his head like he was fighting the words. They're your work people, Earl argued, almost desperate. Ali leaned closer. No, Earl, he said. They're just people. And when I look at you... Ali paused. I don't see a white man. I see a man. Earl scoffed. I ain't scared of nothing, he shot back. Ali didn't laugh. He didn't smirk. He didn't mock him. He said something even worse. Yes, you are. Earl's eyes widened. Ali's voice stayed gentle. You're scared of change. You're scared your daddy would be disappointed. You're scared your customers will leave. You're scared that if you admit you've been wrong all these years, then it means you wasted your whole life hating people for no reason. That last line hit Earl like a punch he couldn't block. Earl opened his mouth, then closed it. His hands flexed. His knuckles turned white. For a second, it looked like he might explode. Like he might finally lash out. And standing near the door, tightened his grip on his camera. Because he could feel the shift. This was no longer just a conversation. This was a man being stripped down in front of his own people. And that's dangerous. Ali turned to the diners again. Let me ask y'all something, Ali said. How many of you agree with that sign in the window? He scanned their faces. Slowly, one by one. No one spoke. No one raised a hand. A man stared down at his plate. A teenage boy looked at his father, nervous. A woman's eyes glistened like she was ashamed. Then a middle-aged woman finally spoke up. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. Earl, she said, the law says you can't have that sign anymore. Earl snapped his head toward her. I don't care about the law, he barked. But his voice wasn't strong. It wasn't sure. It sounded like a man trying to convince himself. Ali nodded slowly. See, Ali said softly. That sign ain't strength. That sign is fear pretending to be strength. Earl's breathing got heavier. Ali continued. That sign says I'm scared. It says I can't handle a world where people are equal. It says I'd rather live in hate than admit I was wrong. Earl's eyes were red now. He wasn't crying yet. But something was happening. Something he didn't understand. Something he couldn't stop. Ali's voice dropped, almost like a prayer. I believe Allah created all people equal, Ali said. And I believe the only thing that makes one man better than another is his actions, not his skin, not his name, not what his daddy told him. His actions. Ali reached into his pocket, and slowly, he pulled out a folded $20 bill. He placed it on the counter. The sound was small, but the moment was huge. I want to buy lunch for everyone in this diner, Ali said. Black or white, doesn't matter. I want everyone to eat together. As equals, as human beings. Earl stared at the money like it was poison. I ain't taking your money, he said, voice shaking slightly. Ali's eyebrows rose. Why not? Earl swallowed. Ali leaned in, calm but sharp. Is it because I'm black? Earl's face twisted. That ain't it. Ali smiled slightly. Because I thought money didn't have a color. A few people in the diner laughed. Not big laughter. Not comfortable laughter. But the kind of laughter that releases tension. Like the room exhaled for the first time in minutes. Earl looked around, almost panicked. Because he could feel it. The room was slipping away from him. He wasn't controlling it anymore. Ali leaned closer, lowering his voice so only Earl could hear. "Earl," he said quietly, "I'm gonna tell you something, and I want you to really hear me." Earl's eyes flicked back to Ali's, and that's when Ali delivered the line that would change everything. "In 10 years, maybe 20, you're gonna be an old man, and you're gonna look back and ask yourself what you stood for." Ali paused. His voice was gentle, but every word cut deep. "Are you gonna be proud you kept that sign in your window? Are you gonna tell you once refused service to the heavyweight champion of the world because of the color of his skin?" Earl's lips trembled. Ali whispered the final question. "Or are you gonna tell them about the day you changed? The day you chose to be better?" Earl's hands started shaking. His eyes filled fast. His voice cracked, and he finally said the words nobody in that diner expected to hear. "I don't know how," he whispered. Ali leaned in. His voice was warm. "Then I'll show you where to start." Earl Miller's lips trembled like they were fighting a war with his pride. His hands were still shaking, and the whole diner, every single person inside, could feel it. Something was happening that didn't happen in places like this. Not in rural Georgia. Not in a diner built on old hate and stubborn tradition. Not in a building where that sign had sat in the window for years. Like a proud warning to anyone who didn't belong. Earl swallowed hard, wiping his hands on his apron like he could wipe away the moment. "I don't know how," he whispered again, softer this time. "This is all I ever known." Muhammad Ali's eyes stayed locked on him. Not angry. Not proud. Not judgmental. Just human. Ali nodded slowly. "That's all right," he said. "Most people don't know how to change. They just know when they're tired of being who they are." Earl's eyes glistened. You could see it. The fear. The shame. The confusion. Ali leaned forward just a little. And when he spoke again, it wasn't like a champion talking down to someone. It was like a brother talking to a brother. "You start small," Ali said. "You start right there." He lifted his chin toward the window. The window with the sign. The sign that had started everything. The sign that still sat there like a stain. "Whites only." The diner went silent again. Even the kitchen sounds stopped. No clanking plates. No sizzling grill. No radio. Just the hum of hot air and the sound of 15 people holding their breath. Earl looked toward that sign like it was staring back at him. Then he looked back at Ali. And you could see him thinking, "If I take it down, what does that make me? What do I become after this? What do I tell my daddy? What do I tell my customers?" Because Earl had built his whole life on that sign. Not just the paper, but what it represented. A world where he was safe. A world where he didn't have to question himself. A world where he didn't have to admit he was wrong. But Muhammad Ali stood there like a living reminder that the world was changing with or without him. And that sign wasn't power. It was weakness. Ali took one step closer, lowering his voice so only Earl could hear. "You don't gotta solve everything today," Ali said. "You don't gotta become a saint in one afternoon. But you gotta do one thing. You gotta stop pretending that sign is right." Earl's throat bobbed. Ali continued gently. "You take it down, and you take your first real breath in a long time." For a moment, Earl didn't move. He stared at Ali. Then he stared at the diner. Then he stared at the sign. And then, he did the one thing nobody expected him to do. He stepped away from the counter. The entire diner shifted. Chairs creaked. A man near the back sat up. A woman clasped her hands together like she was praying. His camera was already raised. Click, click, click. This wasn't a normal moment. This was history. Earl Miller walked toward the window. Slow, heavy, like every step weighed 10 pounds. And as he moved, the customers watched him like they were watching a man walk to the edge of a cliff. Because once he did this, there was no going back. Earl reached the window. He stood in front of the sign. His shadow covered it. And for a second he just stared. Like the sign had a voice. Like it had a grip on him. And then his hand lifted. His fingers hovered. And just as Earl's fingertips touched the edge of that paper, a voice cut through the diner like a whip. "What the hell you think you're doing, Earl?" Everyone turned. A man mid-40s, red face, thick neck, sweaty, stood up from a booth near the back. His chair scraped against the floor. His eyes were burning with anger. He pointed at Ali. "You gonna let him come in here and tell you how to run your own business?" Earl froze. The man looked around at the other customers like he wanted backup. "This is our place. This is our town. We ain't changing for nobody." His voice cracked, but not from emotion. From rage. Ali didn't move. He didn't flinch. He didn't even look surprised. It was like he'd been expecting this. Because every time hate gets challenged, someone always screams to protect it. The angry man stepped forward. His fists clenched. His eyes locked on Ali like Ali was the enemy. "You got some nerve walking in here," the man spat. "Just because you famous do mean you own us." Muhammad Ali turned toward him slowly. Calmly. His voice stayed smooth. "My brother," Ali said, "I don't want to own you. I want you to be free." The man scoffed. "I'm already free." Ali nodded. "You free to hate? You free to be scared? You free to pass your fear down to your children like your daddy did to you?" That line hit hard. The man's face twisted. "Watch your mouth." Ali lifted a hand, not threatening, not aggressive, just stopping him. "I'm not here to disrespect you," Ali said. "I'm here to tell you the truth." Ali stepped forward slightly. Not too close. Just enough to make the man feel the weight of him. "You think that sign makes you strong," Ali said. "But that sign makes you small. You think that sign protects you. But it's really a cage." The man's jaw clenched. "You don't know about us." Ali nodded again. "You right. I don't know your town. But I know fear. I know what it feels like to be told I don't belong. I know what it feels like to be hated for something I didn't choose." Ali's voice lowered, almost painful. "And I know what it feels like to fight your whole life. Just to be treated like a man." The diner was completely silent. The angry man looked around again, waiting for someone to join him. But nobody did. Nobody stood up. Nobody backed him. Because deep down, even they knew Ali was saying something they had never allowed themselves to admit. The man's voice turned desperate. "Earl, don't you listen to him." Earl stood at the window, frozen. His eyes were wide, like he was caught between two worlds. One world that raised him. One world that was now crumbling. Muhammad Ali turned to Earl. His voice was steady but soft. "Earl," he said, "you can listen to him and keep being who you've been. Or you can listen to your heart and become who you were meant to be." Earl's breath came shaky. The angry man stepped forward again. "If you take that sign down, Earl, I'm never coming back here again." His voice was almost shaking now too. Because in his mind, losing that sign meant losing his identity. Ali looked at the man and smiled faintly. "And maybe that's the price of being better," Ali said. The man stared. Ali continued. "You ever think about what your kid's gonna learn from you? You ever wonder if one day they gonna ask you, 'Daddy, why you hated people you never even met?'" The man's face twitched. He didn't answer. Ali didn't push him further. He turned back to Earl. "One last time." Ali spoke gently. "Earl, take it down." Earl's hand returned to the sign. His fingers gripped the paper. His whole body was shaking now. And then, he tore it. The paper ripped with a sharp sound, like a cloth being shredded, like a curtain being pulled, like a chain snapping. Everyone gasped. Earl pulled the whole sign down, crumpled it in his fists. His eyes filled fast. He walked toward the trash can. The angry man shouted again. "No, Earl, don't." But Earl didn't stop. He threw the sign into the trash. And as it landed, it felt like the diner itself changed. Like the air got lighter. Like the walls stopped choking. Earl turned back. Tears ran down his face. And then, in front of everyone, Earl Miller's voice broke. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry for that sign. I'm sorry for turning people away. I'm sorry for being a hateful man." The diner stayed frozen. Then Muhammad Ali walked forward. He placed his hand gently on Earl's shoulder. And he smiled. "That's the bravest thing I seen all week," Ali said. "And I just fought George Foreman." That's when the diner erupted. Not in chaos. In applause. In tears. In relief. Some people cried openly. Some laughed in disbelief. His camera clicked like crazy. Brown shook his head, smiling wide. Dundee exhaled like he'd been holding his breath the whole time. And for the first time in probably 20 years, Earl Miller smiled too. A real smile. Not a proud one. Not a bitter one. A human one. Ali looked around the diner and said, "Now how about that lunch? I'm starving." Earl wiped his face with his apron, voice shaking. "Coming right up, champ." And just like that, Muhammad Ali sat down at the counter of a whites-only diner. As the man who owned it started a brand new life in front of everyone. But outside, in the dirt parking lot, someone was already getting into their truck. Someone furious. Someone humiliated. Someone who wasn't about to let this moment end peacefully. And Ali didn't know it yet. But the real consequences of what he just did were about to begin. For a few minutes, it felt like a miracle. Like hate had finally lost. Like something old and ugly had been peeled off the world and thrown in the trash. Earl Miller stood behind the counter wiping tears from his face. The customers were still clapping. Some were smiling like they couldn't believe what they just witnessed. One woman pressed her hand to her mouth, shaking her head like she'd seen God walk in. Muhammad Ali sat down at the counter like he belonged there, because now he did. And Earl was moving differently. He wasn't puffing his chest out anymore. He wasn't barking orders like the king of his little diner kingdom. He was nervous, but it wasn't the nervousness of anger. It was the nervousness of a man who just stepped into a new life and wasn't sure how to walk yet. He grabbed a pad and pencil with shaky hands. All right, Earl said, trying to sound normal. "What you want, champ?" Ali leaned back, smiling. "A cheeseburger and fries." "And make it good," Ali added, playful, like he was easing the tension for everyone. The diner let out a soft laugh. Earl nodded quickly, almost grateful to have something simple to do. "Coming right up." Exhaled. Brown muttered, "Man, champ, you got magic in your mouth." Dundee leaned down to Ali, voice low. "You all right?" Ali nodded. "I'm fine," he said. Then he looked around the diner. But even as people laughed, even as the air softened, couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. Because the kind of hate that lives in places like this doesn't die quietly. It doesn't just evaporate because one man took down a sign. Sometimes, hate goes outside and comes back with friends, and while everyone was distracted by the miracle happening inside. Out in the dirt parking lot, one man was already preparing to ruin it. The angry customer, the one who screamed at Earl, had stormed out. Nobody stopped him. Nobody asked where he was going, but watched him through the window. The man's face was still twisted with rage. His hands shook as he climbed into his truck. And when he slammed the door, it echoed like a gunshot. Then the truck roared to life, and the tires kicked dust, and he sped off down the road. Whispered to, "That man ain't done." Shook his head. "He bring trouble." His eyes followed the truck until it disappeared. Then he turned back to Ali. "You think he's going for the sheriff?" Ali didn't look worried. He looked aware, like he already knew. "Let him go," Ali said calmly. "If a man wants the sheriff for his hate, then he already lost." Didn't like how confident Ali was. Because confidence didn't stop bullets. Confidence didn't stop mobs. And rural Georgia had a way of reminding people that laws meant nothing if the town didn't want to obey them. Earl came back with coffee, his hands still shaky, but his posture more open. He poured a cup for Ali like he was honored to do it. Ali smiled at him. "Thank you, Earl." Earl nodded, eyes low. "Yes, sir." And that's when Ali corrected him again, soft but firm. "Don't call me sir," Ali said. "Call me Mohammed." Earl blinked, then nodded. "Yes, Mohammed." For the first time, Earl said Ali's name like it meant something. Not like a celebrity, like a man. The diner started to settle again. People went back to their food. Some whispered, some stared, some looked away ashamed. And that's when the bell above the door rang again. Ding, ding. Everyone looked up. It wasn't the angry man. It wasn't another customer. It was a black family. A mother, a father, and 2 little kids. They stood in the doorway like they weren't sure if they were dreaming. The father looked at the counter, looked at Ali, then looked at Earl. Their eyes went to the trash can where the sign used to be, and their faces tightened with caution. They'd been turned away before. Maybe not here, but somewhere. Many times. Their shoulders were tense like they were waiting to be humiliated. The little girl clutched her mother's dress. Earl froze. You could tell he didn't know what to do. Not because he wanted to reject them, but because he'd never done this before. Serving them would mean crossing a line he'd never crossed. And the whole diner was watching. Ali turned on his stool, and he smiled at the family like sunshine. "Come on in," Ali said warmly. "This place is open for everybody now." The father blinked. "Sir, is that true?" Ali nodded. "Ask the owner." The father looked at Earl. Earl's mouth opened. His throat moved. And for a terrifying second, thought Earl might choke. Because this was the true test. Tearing down the sign was one thing. Serving black customers, that was the real step. Earl swallowed hard. Then his eyes flicked toward Ali. Ali didn't say anything. He didn't push. He didn't demand. He just looked at Earl with calm belief. Like he already knew Earl could do it. Earl took a breath. Then with a shaky voice he said, "Yes. Yes, it's true. Y'all come on in." The family stepped forward slowly. And as they walked to a booth, some of the white customers shifted uncomfortably. One man muttered under his breath. But nobody stopped them. Nobody stood up. Nobody made a scene. Because Muhammad Ali was sitting right there. And somehow his presence made hate feel smaller. Earl grabbed menus. His hands trembled as he carried them over. He offered them like he was offering an apology. "Can I get y'all something to drink?" Earl asked. The mother stared at him like she couldn't believe she heard him. The father's voice was cautious. "Sweet tea," he said. "4 of M." Earl nodded quickly. Right away. As Earl walked back to the counter, his eyes were wet again. He looked like a man who had spent his whole life doing the wrong thing. And now that he was doing the right thing, it almost hurt more. Ali watched him closely. And for a moment, Ali's eyes weren't the eyes of a fighter. They were the eyes of someone who understood pain. Leaned close to Ali. "Mohammed, you think this is gonna hold?" Ali looked toward the window, toward the dusty road outside. Then he said quietly, "It'll hold if Earl holds." And that's when they heard it. In the distance, a faint sound at first, then louder, then unmistakable. A siren, not a city siren, not a fast, modern one. This was a rural siren. Slow, heavy, like a warning. The diner fell silent again. Forks stopped. Chairs stopped creaking. Even the kids at the booth looked up, confused. The siren grew louder. Closer. His face turned tight. Muttered, "Here it come." His hand tightened around his camera. Earl froze behind the counter. His eyes went wide. And then, two sheriff's cars pulled into the dirt parking lot. Dust rose around them. Doors opened. Boots hit the ground. And through the window, they could see the angry man standing beside the sheriff, pointing at the diner like he was pointing at a crime scene. The bell above the door rang again. Ding, ding. And the sheriff walked in. Tall, older, hat low, a gun on his hip, a face that didn't smile. Behind him came two deputies, and the angry man followed, grinning like he'd brought the whole town with him. The sheriff scanned the diner. His eyes landed on the black family first, then on Earl. Then, his eyes landed on Muhammad Ali sitting at the counter. And for a second, you could see it. Recognition. Shock. Something close to disbelief. The sheriff didn't expect to see the heavyweight champion of the world inside Earl's diner. But he recovered fast. His face hardened again. He stepped forward. His voice was cold. "Earl Miller's." Earl swallowed. "Yes, Sheriff." The sheriff pointed toward the trash can. "You took down the sign." Earl's hands shook. "Yes." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "Why?" Earl looked at Ali, then back at the sheriff. His voice trembled. "Because it was wrong." The diner went silent. The sheriff's jaw tightened. The angry man sneered. And then the sheriff turned toward Ali. He took one step closer, and he said the words that made stomach drop. "Muhammad Ali, what are you doing in my town stirring up trouble?" Ali slowly turned on his stool. He looked the sheriff in the eye, and his voice was calm, but powerful enough to shake the room. "I'm not stirring up trouble," Ali said. "I'm stirring up conscience." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. Ali continued, "And if conscience feels like trouble to you, then maybe trouble is what this town needs." The angry man's face twisted with rage. The sheriff's hand hovered near his belt, and the entire diner held its breath. Because now, this was bigger than a diner. This was Ali versus the town. And the town had the law on its side. But Ali had something even stronger. He had the truth. The sheriff stood in the middle of the diner like he owned the air. His boots were dusty. His hat sat low, shadowing his eyes. And his hand kept drifting toward his belt. Not because he needed his gun, but because he wanted everyone to remember it was there. Behind him, the angry customer, red-faced and smug, stood with crossed arms, watching like he'd already won. The deputies stayed quiet, but their eyes were sharp. And all around them, the diner felt smaller, not because the walls moved, because fear was creeping back in. That same fear that had lived behind that sign for years. The kind of fear that keeps people obedient, keeps them silent, keeps them from changing. The sheriff looked at Muhammad Ali. His voice was slow and controlled. "Champion," he said, like it was a warning, not a compliment. "You're a long way from Kinshasa." A few people chuckled nervously, but the laughter died quickly. Ali didn't smile. He didn't get up. He sat there on the stool, calm as stone. "I'm exactly where I need to be," Ali said. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. He glanced at Earl, then at the black family in the booth, then back to Earl again. And he spoke louder now, so everyone could hear. "Earl Millers, you know better than this." Earl swallowed. His hands clenched and unclenched. "Yes, sir," he whispered. Ali's head tilted. "Don't call him sir," Ali said. The sheriff turned his gaze back to Ali slowly. "Excuse me." Ali nodded toward Earl. "Let him speak for himself," Ali said. The sheriff let out a short, humorless laugh. "This ain't your business." Ali's voice was steady. "It became my business when I saw that sign." The angry man behind the sheriff stepped forward. "That sign was right," he barked. The sheriff raised a hand to stop him. Then he took another step toward Earl. His voice dropped lower, more personal now. "Earl, I'm gonna ask you one time. Put the sign back up." A wave of tension moved through the diner. Earl's eyes widened. The black father at the booth tightened his shoulders. His wife pulled her children closer. His camera was lowered now. Because this wasn't a picture moment anymore. This was a danger moment. Earl's voice shook. The sheriff leaned in slightly. "You can." Earl's throat moved. "I won't." That word "won't" hit the room like a firecracker. Even Dundee's eyebrows lifted. Whispered, "Oh Lord." The sheriff stared at Earl like he didn't recognize him. Because he didn't. This wasn't the Earl Miller who obeyed. This wasn't the Earl Miller who stayed in line. This was a man who had just been shown what courage looked like. And now, he was trying to wear it himself. The sheriff's voice sharpened. "You're gonna cost yourself trouble." Earl's breathing got heavier. The sheriff continued, louder now, letting everyone hear his authority. "You think the law is gonna protect you from your own foolishness." Earl looked down. His hands shook, but he didn't move toward the sign. He didn't reach for it. And the sheriff's face hardened. He turned toward the black family and pointed at them like they were the problem. "You," he snapped. "You need to leave." The black father's eyes narrowed. "We ain't done wrong." The sheriff's voice turned cold. "You're trespassing." The mother's face tightened. The children looked frightened. His stomach dropped. Because this was the truth of it. The sheriff wasn't here to enforce the law. He was here to protect the old order. And if that meant bullying a family out of a booth, he'd do it without hesitation. Muhammad Ali slid off his stool. Slowly, quietly, but the movement itself changed the air. Because when Ali stood, the room remembered who he was. A heavyweight champion. A man trained to face danger. A man who wasn't afraid of authority. Ali stepped between the sheriff and the family. Not aggressive. Not threatening. Just present. And he spoke calmly. "Sheriff," Ali said, "the Civil Rights Act says they can eat here." The sheriff's eyes flashed. "This ain't Washington," he hissed. Ali's voice stayed smooth. "No," Ali said. "This is America." The sheriff stepped closer, chest puffing. "You think you can come down here and tell folks how to live?" Ali nodded slowly. "No, but I can remind folks they're already living wrong." The sheriff's jaw tightened. He glanced around, seeing the customers watching him. Watching Ali. Watching Earl. The sheriff didn't like being watched. He didn't like being challenged. So he tried a different weapon. He turned to Ali and spoke with a fake calm. "You're a smart man, Mohammed. So let me talk plain. You're famous. You got a career. You got places to go. Why you risking all that for this diner?" Ali's eyes didn't blink. "Because if I can fight the world for my title, I can fight one town for its soul." That line shook people. The middle-aged woman by the window started to cry again. Not loud, just quiet tears, because she knew Ali was saying something nobody in that town had ever said out loud. The sheriff's face tightened. He looked at Earl now like Earl was the weak point again. "Earl," he said, "you put that sign back up, or I'll shut this place down." Earl's lips parted. His eyes went wide. The diner was his whole life, his inheritance, his identity, and the sheriff knew it. That was the leverage. Earl's knees almost buckled. Could see it. Earl was about to fold. Not because he wanted to, but because fear was returning. That same fear Ali had been peeling away. The sheriff stepped closer and lowered his voice. "You think them folks you just served are gonna pay your bills? You think Muhammad Ali's gonna stay here when you get boycotted? You're gonna lose everything." Earl's face turned pale. His breathing got shallow. His eyes darted toward Ali like he wanted Ali to save him again. And Ali saw it. Ali saw the moment Earl was about to go back. Go back to the old Earl. Go back to safety. Go back to hate. So Ali did something no one expected. He reached into his pocket again. But this time, it wasn't a $20 bill. It was a folded piece of paper. He pulled it out slowly, and he held it up. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "What is that?" Ali unfolded it, then held it out toward Earl. It was a check. Earl blinked, leaned forward. Even the sheriff paused. Ali's voice was steady. "Earl," Ali said, loud enough for the whole diner, "this is a check for $10,000. The diner gasped. 10,000. In 1974. That was a fortune. The sheriff's eyes widened just slightly. Ali continued, "Put it in your bank tomorrow. And if anyone tries to boycott you, if anyone tries to shut you down, if anyone tries to punish you for doing the right thing, you use this to keep your doors open." Earl's mouth trembled. He stared at the check like it wasn't real. Ali stepped closer to Earl. "You said you don't know how to change. Well, this is how you start. You don't go back." The sheriff's face twisted. "You can't buy this town," the sheriff snapped. Ali turned slowly to face him. His voice was calm, but sharp enough to cut glass. "I'm not buying your town. I'm buying Earl's courage." The diner exploded into murmurs. People whispered. Some looked stunned. Some looked ashamed. Some looked inspired. And the sheriff realized something terrible. He wasn't controlling the room anymore. Ali was. And that made him dangerous. The sheriff leaned in toward Ali, voice low and threatening. "You're making enemies," he said. Ali leaned in too. His voice was a whisper. "I've been making enemies my whole life. And I'm still standing." The sheriff pulled back and pointed at Earl. "This is your last chance." Earl stared at the check. Then at Ali. Then at the black family. Then at the sheriff. His whole body shook. And finally, Earl reached out. He took the check. Not like a greedy man. Like a man taking a lifeline. Then he looked the sheriff straight in the eye. And for the first time, Earl Miller spoke like a free man. "I'm not putting it back up," he said. The sheriff's eyes widened. The angry man behind him cursed under his breath. The sheriff's jaw clenched like it might crack. And then he said something that made the whole diner. The sheriff didn't raise his voice. He didn't slam his hand on the counter. He didn't make a scene. Because men like him didn't need to. They carried their power like a weapon. Cold, quiet, certain. When he said, "Call the boys," he said it like he was ordering more coffee. But everyone in that diner knew what it really meant. In rural Georgia, 1974. The boys didn't mean friendly help. It meant men who liked things the old way. Men who believed the sheriff belonged to them. Men who didn't ask questions. They just showed up. Stomach tightened into a knot. He'd been around Ali enough to know one thing. Ali wasn't afraid, but was afraid for everyone else. For Earl. For that black family in the booth. For himself. Because Ali could talk his way into a miracle. But miracles didn't always protect you from people who wanted to punish change. The sheriff turned toward the door with a stiff, practiced calm. The angry customer followed him out with a satisfied smirk, like he'd just pressed a button and knew what would happen next. The bell rang as they left. Ding, ding. And then the diner was quiet. Quiet in the worst way. Like the calm right before something breaks. Earl stood behind the counter, holding Ali's check like it was burning his fingers. His face was pale. His eyes were wide. He looked like a man who just stepped out of a safe house and realized the storm was real. The black father in the booth leaned close to his wife. "We should go," he whispered. The mother held her children close, voice trembling. "I don't want them seeing." She didn't finish. Because she didn't have to. Everyone knew what she meant. They didn't want their kids seeing a town turn ugly. They didn't want them learning, too early, that doing the right thing can still cost you. Ali looked toward the family. His voice softened. "Y'all don't have to stay," Ali said gently. The father nodded. "I appreciate what you did, champ, but we..." Ali stepped closer, holding up his hand. "I understand," he said. "But listen to me." Ali leaned down a little, so he was closer to the children's level. His voice wasn't loud. It was calm and warm, like he was talking to his own family. "You didn't do nothing wrong," Ali told them. "You hear me?" The little boy stared up at him, eyes big and scared. Ali smiled. "The world tries to make you feel like you don't belong. But you belong everywhere God put your feet." The mother's eyes filled. The father swallowed hard, nodding. Then Ali looked at Earl. "And Earl," Ali said, "if you want to be better. This is the moment." Earl's breath shook. "I'm trying," he whispered. Ali nodded. "I know." Dindi stepped close to Ali and muttered under his breath. "Mohammed, we should go." Ali didn't even turn his head. "No," he said quietly. His eyes widened. "No, champ, we got a speaking engagement. We got places." Ali finally turned too. And there was something in his eyes that made stop. Not fear. Not anger. Resolve. "I've been running my whole life," Ali said. "I ran from folks who hated me. I ran from folks who wanted me quiet. I ran from people who wanted me smaller than I am." Ali's voice got lower. "I'm not running today." Spoke up, voice tense. "Mohammed, the sheriff's calling men. That ain't a joke." Ali nodded once. "I know." Brown looked nervous for once. "Champ, them country boys don't play fair." Ali smiled faintly. "Neither do I," he said. Blinked. Ali pointed to. "You got film." Hesitated. "Yeah, but..." Ali held out his hand. "Give me that camera." Froze. "What?" Ali's voice stayed steady. "Give me the camera." Slowly handed it over. Ali took it like he'd done it 1,000 times. He weighed it in his hands. Then he turned toward the diner's front window. And he did something that made everyone stare. He walked outside. The heat hit him the moment he stepped out. A heavy Georgia heat, thick with dust and tension. The sheriff's cars were still parked in the dirt lot. The angry customer stood near his truck, arms folded, watching Ali with a grin. The sheriff was by his car, speaking into the radio. He looked up when Ali stepped outside. His eyes narrowed. Ali walked calmly to the edge of the parking lot. Then he raised the camera. The sheriff's posture stiffened. "What are you doing?" the sheriff called. Ali didn't answer. He just started taking pictures. Click, click, click. The sheriff's face twisted. You taking pictures of my deputies? Ali finally spoke. His voice was loud enough for everyone inside the diner to hear. Yes, Ali said. And I'm taking pictures of you. The sheriff stepped forward. You can't do that. Ali smiled. Oh, I can. The sheriff's jaw clenched. Ali lifted the camera again and snapped another photo. Click. Then Ali said something that made the angry customer's smile fade. I'm gonna tell you what's happening right now, Ali called out. This sheriff is trying to scare a man. For taking down a racist sign. Ali pointed toward the diner behind him. That man in there is trying to do better. And this town is trying to punish him for it. Ali took another photo. Click. The sheriff's eyes flashed with fury. You got no proof of that? Ali smiled wider. I'm making proof, Ali said. Then Ali turned toward the road. As if he was talking to someone who wasn't there yet. As if he was addressing the air. But he was. He was addressing the world. And the sheriff didn't realize it until Ali said the next line. I'm Muhammad Ali, Ali shouted. And if anybody touches that diner, if anybody threatens that man, if anybody tries to shut him down. The sheriff watched, confused. Ali continued. I'm going to tell every newspaper in America. I'm going to tell every TV station that wants a story. I'm going to tell every church group and civil rights group that still has fight in them. I'm going to bring cameras here until the whole world sees exactly what kind of law y'all got. The angry customer's face turned pale. His confidence cracked. Because that's what hate feared most. Not fists. Not fights. Exposure. Ali lowered the camera and looked straight at the sheriff. You want to call your boys? Ali asked calmly. Go ahead. But just know, you ain't calling just men. You calling the whole country to watch. The sheriff's eyes narrowed into slits. You think anybody cares about a diner in Georgia? Ali nodded slowly. They will when it's Muhammad Ali standing in it. The sheriff took a step forward, voice sharp. You threatening me? Ali shook his head. No, Sheriff, Ali said. I'm warning you. The sheriff's lips tightened. He glanced at the angry customer. The angry customer no longer looked proud. He looked uneasy. Because it was one thing to bully a diner owner quietly. It was another thing to do it with Muhammad Ali standing there. And a camera in his hands. And the promise of national attention. The sheriff radio crackled again. You could hear voices. Men responding. Men coming. The sheriff's eyes flicked toward the road. Then back at Ali. And Ali just stood there. Calm. Unshaken. Like the entire town could come down that road. And he'd still be standing. Ali walked back toward the diner door. Before stepping inside, he turned and called out one last time. Tell your boys, Ali said. Bring their best words. Because I ain't fighting with fists today. I'm fighting with truth. Then he pushed open the door. Ding, ding. And when he stepped back into the diner, everyone inside looked at him like he'd just walked into a hurricane on purpose. Grabbed Ali's arm, whispering urgently. Mohammed, you just put a target on us. Ali looked around the diner. At the frightened family. At Earl holding that check. At the white customers who suddenly realized they were part of something bigger than lunch. Ali spoke softly. I didn't put a target on us, he said. Their hate did. He looked at Earl. And Earl, you don't back down now. Earl's lips trembled. I'm scared. Ali nodded. That's okay, Ali said. Courage ain't the absence of fear. Courage is standing anyway. Outside, the sound of trucks was getting closer. Engines, dust, voices, and the diner could feel it. This wasn't over. Not even close. Because when hate feels embarrassed, it doesn't disappear. It gathers, and it comes back louder. But Ali had done something the sheriff didn't expect. He turned a private threat into a public moment. And now, the town wasn't just dealing with Earl Miller. They were dealing with Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali didn't just knock out opponents. He knocked out lies. The first truck arrived like thunder. A loud engine. A hard brake. Dust rising in a thick cloud that covered the parking lot like smoke. Then another. And another. Old pickups with rust on their doors. Men hanging out the windows. Some with caps pulled low. Some with cigarettes hanging from their mouths. Some laughing like they were arriving at a show. Looked through the diner window and felt his stomach drop. Because the sheriff wasn't alone anymore. He had his boys. And they weren't here for lunch. They were here for control. Inside the diner, everything changed again. The air got tight. The room got small. The customers froze in their booths like trapped animals. The black family's children started whimpering softly. The mother held them close, her hands trembling. The father stared out the window, jaw clenched, eyes hard. Earl Miller stood behind the counter, holding the check like it was the last thing keeping him alive. His lips moved like he was trying to pray. But no words were coming out. Dundee whispered to Ali, "Mohammed, this is getting dangerous." Brown paced in a tight circle, muttering, "Lord, Lord, Lord." His camera was still around his neck, but his hands were shaking too much to lift it. And Muhammad Ali. Ali stood calmly by the counter, still as stone, like he was waiting. Not afraid, not uncertain, just waiting for the moment when he'd have to speak again. The bell above the door rang. Ding, ding. The sheriff walked back in. This time he didn't come alone. 2 deputies followed behind him. And behind them, the angry customer stepped inside again, with a grin that didn't look as confident as before. Because he wasn't grinning from power anymore. He was grinning from pressure. Like he needed this crowd behind him to feel brave. The sheriff looked around the diner slowly. Then his eyes landed on Ali again. His voice was cold. "You made this bigger than it had to be." Ali nodded slightly. "That's what truth does," Ali said. "It gets big." The sheriff ignored him and turned to Earl. "Earl," he said firmly, "I'm shutting you down." Earl's face went pale. "You can't." The sheriff cut him off. "Oh, I can." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a paper. "Health violations," he said casually. "Old license issue. Improper signage." He waved the paper like it was a weapon. "I can find a reason to shut you down any time I want." Earl's hands shook. "Sheriff, please." Ali stepped forward again. "Calm. Steady." He spoke like he wasn't even talking to the sheriff. Like he was talking to the room. "You hear that?" Ali said. "This ain't law. This is power pretending to be law." The sheriff's jaw tightened. The crowd outside could be heard now. Muffled voices. Boots on gravel. Someone laughed. Someone shouted something ugly that made the black mother flinch. Earl looked like he was about to collapse. His mouth opened. His voice cracked. "I tried," Earl whispered. "I tried to do right, Mohammed, but I can't fight this." Ali stepped closer to him. He placed his hand on the counter and leaned in like a father talking to a scared son. "Yes, you can," Ali said softly. "Because you ain't fighting alone." Earl blinked. Ali turned toward the sheriff. "You shutting him down today?" Ali asked. The sheriff shrugged. "I am." Ali nodded. "Then shut him down." The sheriff stared. Ali continued. "Because if you shut him down, you gonna have to shut down me too." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "You don't own this diner." Ali nodded. "No, but I'm sitting in it. And if you're shutting it down, Then you shutting down the heavyweight champion of the world for trying to eat a cheeseburger. The sheriff paused. He didn't like that, because now it sounded ridiculous. And the sheriff knew what Ali knew. Once power looks ridiculous, it loses its grip. The sheriff took a step closer. This ain't a joke. Ali nodded. I know. Then Ali's voice got slightly louder. Not shouting, just louder enough for the diner and the men outside to hear through the open door. You know how many people watch me fight Foreman? Ali asked. The sheriff's eyes flickered. Ali continued. Millions. Know how many people gonna watch what you do next? The sheriff's hand drifted toward his belt again. You gonna threaten me with cameras? Ali shook his head. No. I'm gonna invite them. Ali stepped toward the front door. His eyes widened. Whispered urgently. Mohammed, don't go out there. But Ali didn't stop. He opened the door. The bell rang. Ding, ding. And the heat and noise rushed in. Outside, there were at least 15 men. More were pulling up. The sheriff stood behind Ali, watching nervously. The angry customer stood with folded arms. The men outside looked at Ali like he was a wild animal that wandered into their yard. Some looked angry. Some looked excited. Some looked unsure. Ali stepped out onto the dusty ground. His shadow stretched across the dirt parking lot. And suddenly, the men outside went quiet, because they weren't facing Earl Miller anymore. They weren't facing a local preacher. They weren't facing a scared family. They were facing Muhammad Ali, a man who stood in front of cameras for a living, a man who didn't tremble. Ali raised his hands slowly, palms open. Not a fighting stance, a peaceful stance. And he spoke. His voice wasn't angry. It was strong, carrying, the kind of voice that could fill arenas. Fellas, Ali said, I ain't here to fight nobody. A man in the crowd scoffed. Then why you here? Ali nodded. I'm here to talk. Another voice shouted. We don't want your talk. Ali didn't flinch. He smiled slightly. That's all right, Ali said. You don't have to want it. You just gotta hear it. The men shifted. Some rolled their eyes. Some laughed. Ali continued. You call yourself strong. You call yourself proud. But you standing here mad because a man took down a piece of paper. Ali pointed toward the diner. That sign was paper. Y'all acting like it was God. A few men frowned. One man spat into the dirt. Ali's voice stayed calm but powerful. Let me ask you something, Ali said. You ever been knocked down? The men scoffed. Yeah, someone muttered. Ali nodded. I've been knocked down too. I've been hit. I've been hated. I've been called names. I've been told I don't belong. And you know what I learned. Ali took a step forward. You don't prove you're a man by keeping other people down. You prove you're a man by lifting yourself up. The crowd stayed quiet. Ali's voice softened. You know what that black family in there wants? They want what you want. A meal. A safe place for their kids. A life where nobody humiliates them just for existing. Ali pointed at the men. You got mothers too. You got kids too. You got grandbabies too. So why you want to teach hate? A man shouted back. Because that's how it's always been. Ali nodded. That's what Earl said too. And that's what your daddy said. And his daddy said. And you gonna keep saying it. Until your children are carrying the same poison. The men shifted again. Some looked uncomfortable now. One man's eyes dropped to the dirt. Ali continued, voice quieter now but still sharp. You mad at me because I'm famous. You mad because I walked into your town. No. You mad because today, someone made you look at yourself. The angry customer stepped forward and shouted, "This ain't about feelings." Ali turned toward him calmly. "It is. Because hate is a feeling. Fear is a feeling. Pride is a feeling." Ali took a breath and spoke the line that cut deeper than anything else. "You want to be remembered as the men who stood against a cheeseburger, or the men who stood for something right." That line hit like a slap. The men looked at each other. The sheriff behind Ali shifted nervously. Because you could feel it. The crowd wasn't united anymore. They weren't sure anymore. Ali had split them not with fists, with words. And then, from inside the diner, a voice called out. A woman's voice. Soft, trembling. "Sheriff." Everyone turned. It was the middle-aged woman who had spoken earlier. She stepped into the doorway slowly. Her eyes were wet. Her hands were shaking. And she said something that nobody expected. "My brother, he got beat up last year." The men outside frowned. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. The woman swallowed hard. "He got beat up because he tried to serve a black man at his store." The crowd went still. Her voice broke. And I stayed quiet. I stayed quiet because I was scared. Tears ran down her face. But I'm tired of being scared. The crowd froze. Because now, it wasn't just Ali talking. It was their own people. Their own town. Their own shame. Ali looked at her gently. And then he turned back to the men outside. His voice was calm but heavy. "You see," Ali said, "this ain't about me. This is about what kind of people y'all want to be." The crowd didn't shout now. They didn't laugh. They didn't move. They just stood there, facing something harder than any fight. Their own reflection. And the sheriff realized it too. This crowd was slipping away. His power was slipping away. And if he didn't act fast, he was going to lose control completely. So he stepped forward, and he said the one thing that would force the moment into a final confrontation. "Enough." His voice was sharp. He pointed at Ali. "You get back inside. You and your people." Ali didn't move. He looked at the sheriff calmly, and the sheriff's voice turned darker. "Or I'll arrest you." The sheriff's words hung in the hot Georgia air like a storm cloud. "Or I'll arrest you." The men in the parking lot shifted. A few of them looked excited again, like they wanted to see a famous man dragged away. Others looked uneasy, because arresting Muhammad Ali wasn't the same as arresting some unknown black man passing through town. Arresting Ali meant something. It meant headlines. It meant attention. It meant consequences. And the sheriff could feel that too. That's why his voice sounded strong. But his eyes didn't. The sheriff stepped closer to Ali. His hand was still hovering near his belt. His deputies stood behind him, ready. The angry customer's mouth curled into a grin like a child who thinks he's about to watch someone get punished. Ali stood perfectly still. Not defiant. Not aggressive. Just calm, like he was letting the sheriff decide what kind of man he wanted to be in front of everyone. The sheriff pointed at Ali again. "You got 2 seconds," he snapped. Ali nodded. Then he did something that shocked everybody. He raised his hands slowly. Palms out. Not a boxing stance. A surrender. A peaceful surrender. And he smiled. "Go ahead," Ali said. "Arrest me." The parking lot went silent. Even the crickets felt quieter. The sheriff blinked. "What?" Ali's voice was steady. "Put the cuffs on me," Ali said. "I'll go with you." The sheriff's face tightened. Because he didn't expect that. He expected Ali to argue. To shout. To provoke. To give him a reason. But Ali wasn't giving him a reason. Ali was giving him a choice. The sheriff glanced at his deputies. They looked uncertain. The crowd leaned in. Ali took a slow step forward, still with his hands raised. Still calm, he looked right at the sheriff. "But before you do it, I want you to understand something." The sheriff scoffed. "I don't need a speech." Ali nodded. "You might," Ali said, "because this ain't about me." Ali's voice got louder now, not angry but clear, so everyone could hear. "You arrest me, and you show the whole world what kind of law you got. You arrest me, and you prove this town is scared of a man trying to eat lunch with everybody else." Ali turned his head slightly, scanning the men in the trucks. "You arrest me, and you show your children that fear is stronger than justice." The sheriff's jaw clenched. "Enough," he barked. Ali didn't stop. He kept speaking like his words were bigger than the sheriff's badge. "You can arrest me," Ali said. "You can lock me up. But you can't lock up the truth." He pointed toward the diner. "You can shut down Earl's diner. But you can't shut down change." The crowd shifted again. One man whispered, "He's right." Another man shook his head, but not with confidence anymore. The sheriff stepped closer, voice low and threatening. "You think you're untouchable because you famous." Ali shook his head. "No, I know I ain't untouchable." Ali's eyes got heavy. "I've been touched. I've been hit. I've been hated. And I've been punished for standing up." Ali paused, letting the weight settle. "But I'm still standing." He looked at the sheriff. "And you know why. Because I decided a long time ago. I'd rather be hated for doing right than loved for doing wrong." That line landed hard. The angry customer looked uneasy now. Because Ali wasn't acting like a troublemaker. Ali was acting like a preacher. Like a teacher. Like a man who couldn't be broken by intimidation. The sheriff's face tightened. He reached for his handcuffs. The crowd gasped softly. His heart pounded. Dindi whispered, "Mohammed." Brown muttered, "Lord, protect my champ." The sheriff stepped forward, cuffs in hand. But before he could grab Ali's wrist, a voice from the crowd shouted, "Sheriff." Everyone turned. It was a white man. Older, gray hair, calloused hands. He stepped out from behind a truck slowly. His voice was shaky but loud. "You arrest him." "For what?" The sheriff glared. "Stay out of it, Walter." Walter didn't stop. He pointed toward the diner. "My wife been telling Earl to take that sign down for years," Walter said. "And now you want to arrest Ali because he helped him do it." The sheriff's face reddened. "This ain't your concern." Walter shook his head. "Yes, it is." He glanced at the men around him. "You know what my boy said last night?" The crowd stayed quiet. Walter swallowed. "He said he don't want to grow up in a town where people hate each other." Walter's voice cracked. And I didn't know what to tell him. Silence spread like a wave. Even the angry customer's grin faded completely. The sheriff looked at Walter like he wanted to crush him with his eyes. But Walter didn't back down. Then another voice joined in. A younger man. "I agree." And another. "Yeah." And another. One by one. The crowd started shifting away from the sheriff's energy. Because Ali had done it. Not with force. With exposure. He had shown everyone what was happening. And now people were starting to see the sheriff. Not as a protector. As a bully. The sheriff's hand tightened around the cuffs. He was losing them. So he turned his rage toward Earl. "Earl," he shouted. "Get out here." Earl stepped into the diner doorway. His face was pale, but his eyes were stronger now. The sheriff pointed. "This is your diner. You tell Ali to leave. You tell him you don't want him here." Earl's mouth opened, and nothing came out. The sheriff snapped. Tell him. Earl looked at Ali. Ali nodded slightly like he was saying, "It's your moment." Earl swallowed hard. Then he stepped outside fully. The crowd watched him like he was walking into fire. Earl's voice shook. But he spoke. "I'm not telling him to leave." The sheriff's eyes widened. Earl continued. "He helped me. He reminded me I'm a man. And I ain't gonna spit on that." The sheriff stared stunned. Earl's breathing shook. But he kept going. "I've been wrong my whole life. I've been hiding behind my daddy's hate. I've been using that sign as an excuse to be cruel." Earl's voice broke. "And I ain't doing it anymore." The crowd fell silent. The sheriff's face twisted with fury. The angry customer shouted, "Earl, you're making a mistake." Earl turned toward him. His eyes were wet, but his voice was steady now. "No," Earl said. "My mistake was thinking hate made me strong." Earl looked around at the men. At the trucks. At the dust. At the sheriff. Then he raised his voice. "If you don't want to eat here because I serve everybody, then don't. But I'm not going back." That line stunned the crowd. And in that moment, Earl Miller wasn't the diner owner anymore. He was a man standing up for his soul. Ali smiled. Proud, but not arrogant. Just proud like someone watching another person step out of darkness. The sheriff's face was burning. He looked trapped. He had come here expecting to crush a small moment quietly. But now, the moment was bigger than him. He stared at Ali, then at Earl, then at the crowd, and he realized the truth. If he arrested Ali now, he wouldn't look powerful. He would look like the villain. And villains don't win when the whole world is watching. The sheriff slowly lowered the handcuffs. His voice came out tight. "This ain't over." Ali nodded calmly. "It never is," Ali said. The sheriff turned sharply and stormed back toward his car. The deputies followed. The angry customer stood frozen, humiliated. One by one, the men outside started climbing back into their trucks. Not because they were convinced, but because something had shifted. Something they couldn't fight. Not with fists. Not with threats. Not with a badge. Ali watched them leave. And when the last truck rolled away, he turned toward Earl. The diner door was still open. The wind carried dust inside. Ali smiled gently. "Now," Ali said, "about that cheeseburger." Earl let out a shaky laugh through tears. "Coming right up," he said. And the whole diner, inside and out, finally breathed again. But Ali knew. This town wasn't healed. Not yet. This was only the beginning. Because changing a sign was one thing. Changing people would take time. And Ali was about to make Earl a promise. That would shock him even more than that check. When the last truck rolled away, the diner didn't erupt. It didn't celebrate like a movie ending. It didn't cheer like the fight was over. Because everyone inside knew something deep down. That wasn't victory. That was just survival. The dust from the trucks still floated in the air outside. The sheriff's cars were gone, but the threat didn't feel gone. It felt delayed. Like a storm that walked away but promised to come back. Inside, Earl Miller leaned against the counter like his legs couldn't hold him. His face was wet with tears and sweat. He looked like he'd just fought the hardest fight of his life. And in a way, he had. Finally, let out the breath he'd been holding for what felt like an hour. Dundee shook his head slowly. "Man," he whispered, "I can't believe that just happened." Brown laughed, but it sounded shaky. "Champ, you don't just knock out Foreman, you knock out the whole town." Ali didn't laugh. He didn't celebrate. He just stood there quietly, watching Earl, because Ali knew something nobody else understood yet. This wasn't about what Ali did today. This was about what Earl would do tomorrow. It's easy to do the right thing when a champion is standing next to you. It's harder when you're alone. Earl wiped his face with his apron and tried to speak. His voice cracked. I don't know what just happened. Ali smiled gently. You became a man, Ali said. Earl swallowed. He looked around the diner. At the white customers sitting quietly. At the black family in the booth, still holding their kids close like the danger might return any second. Earl's voice turned small. They're gonna come back, Earl whispered. Ali nodded. Maybe. Earl's eyes widened. I can't fight all them people, Mohammed. Ali leaned closer. You don't have to fight Ali said. You just have to keep your door open. Earl blinked. Ali continued. Because when you keep your door open, you teach everybody watching that hate can't win forever. Earl looked down at the check, still tucked into his apron pocket. The weight of it felt heavy. Not because of the money. Because of what it meant. It meant someone believed in him. And Earl wasn't used to being believed in. Earl cleared his throat. His voice shook as he said, You still want that cheeseburger? Ali smiled bigger. Yes, sir. Then he stopped himself and chuckled. Yes, Earl. And for the first time since Ali walked in, the diner laughed like it meant it. Not nervous. Not forced. Real laughter. Earl nodded and disappeared into the kitchen, moving like a man waking up from a long sleep. The grill started sizzling again. Plates clanked. The diner was alive. And slowly, people started talking again. But something was different. The atmosphere had shifted. The sign being gone changed everything. The silence being broken changed everything. The black family sat quietly, still cautious. The father kept glancing at the window. The mother held her kids close. They weren't celebrating. They were still surviving. Ali walked over to their booth slowly. He didn't want to overwhelm them. He didn't want to seem like a celebrity. He just wanted to be a man. Can I sit with y'all? Ali asked gently. The father looked stunned, then nodded quickly. Yes, sir. Ali smiled, waving it off. Just Mohammed. The mother's eyes filled with tears. We don't know what to say. Ali sat down. You don't gotta say nothing, he told her. Just eat. The little boy stared at Ali, wide-eyed. You really beat George Foreman, he whispered. Ali grinned. I sure did, he said. The boy's mouth dropped open. Ali leaned forward like he was sharing a secret. And you know what? The boy shook his head quickly. Ali whispered. I was scared. The boy blinked. You weren't. Ali nodded. Yeah, but I still did it. The boy looked confused. Ali smiled. That's what courage is. The boy nodded slowly like he was learning something bigger than boxing. Took a photo quietly from across the room. Click. But this wasn't the kind of picture that would sell newspapers. This was a picture of something rare. A champion sitting in a booth with a family. Like he belonged there. Like they belonged there. And in that moment, the diner didn't look like a place of hate anymore. It looked like a place of possibility. Earl returned with food. A tray of cheeseburgers, fries, and sweet tea. He placed them down carefully like he was serving something sacred. He looked at the black family. His voice cracked. I'm sorry, Earl said quietly. The father nodded slowly. His eyes were hard but not hateful. I accept, he said. But then he added something that made Earl flinch. Just don't let it happen again. Earl swallowed. I won't, Earl whispered. Ali watched Earl closely. Earl wasn't just saying words now. He was committing to something. And commitment is dangerous. Because commitment brings consequences. The family started eating. Slowly, the tension eased. Then one of the white customers, a younger woman, stood up. She walked toward the black family's booth. Everyone froze again, because nobody knew what she was about to do. Her hands were shaking. She looked down at the mother, and she said quietly, can I say something?" The mother stared. The woman's eyes filled. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "My daddy taught me wrong too." The diner went silent. She glanced at Ali, then back to the family. "I never questioned it," she said. "But today I'm questioning it." The black mother nodded slowly. "Good," she said softly. The woman smiled through tears and returned to her table. And you could feel it. A crack in the wall. Not fully broken, but cracking. Then Earl returned to the counter and finally ate his own food. He kept glancing toward the window, toward the parking lot, toward the road. He was waiting. Because deep down, he knew the sheriff didn't just leave. The sheriff retreated. And there's a difference. The afternoon dragged on. Customers came and went. Some came just to see Ali. Some came because they heard something had happened. Some came because curiosity is stronger than hate sometimes. Ali signed autographs. He shook hands. He smiled. But he didn't leave. Even though kept checking the clock nervously. Even though whispered, "Champ, we gotta go soon." Ali stayed. Because Ali wasn't going to let Earl face the first hours alone. Then the phone rang behind the counter. A harsh, sharp ring that cut through the warm noise. Earl froze. The diner froze. Earl slowly picked up the receiver. "Hello," he said, voice tense. At first, nobody could hear the other side. But Earl's face changed instantly. His eyes widened. His mouth tightened. His shoulders rose. Like he was being punched with words. Ali stood up slowly from the booth, watching. His camera lifted again. Earl's breathing got shallow. Then Earl whispered, "Yes, yes, sir." And then quietly, "No, sir, I understand." Ali stepped closer. Earl looked like he couldn't breathe. Then the call ended. Earl slowly hung up. His hands were shaking again. He turned toward Ali, eyes glassy. Ali's voice was calm. "Who was it?" Earl swallowed hard. "It was the sheriff." The diner went silent again. Earl's voice cracked. He said, Earl paused, struggling. He said he's gonna make sure nobody comes here anymore. He said he's gonna make sure I lose everything. Earl's chest rose and felt like he was fighting a panic. Ali stepped closer and placed a hand on Earl's shoulder. "And what did you say?" Ali asked. Earl's voice came out small. I didn't say much." Ali nodded. "That's okay." Earl looked at Ali like a child. "I'm scared," Earl whispered again. Ali leaned in. His voice was low, but it was strong. "Good." Earl blinked. Ali continued. "Because fear means you know the price now. But you still gotta pay it." Ali's eyes locked onto Earl's. "Earl, you took the sign down in front of everybody. That means you can't go back." Earl's lips trembled. Ali's voice softened. "But listen." Ali smiled gently. "You ain't alone." Earl swallowed. "What do you mean?" Ali tapped Earl's chest lightly. "You got courage now. And you got something else." Earl frowned, confused. Ali leaned closer and spoke the promise that would change Earl's life forever. "I'm gonna be checking on you." Earl's eyes widened. Ali nodded. "Every time I'm in Georgia. I'm stopping here." Earl's mouth opened. No words came out. Ali smiled. "And you better have that door open for everybody when I come." Earl's eyes filled with tears again. He nodded slowly. "I will," Earl whispered. Ali nodded. "Good." Then Ali turned toward the diner. Toward the customers. Toward the black family. He raised his voice gently. "Everybody hear that?" Ali said. "This place is for everybody now." The diner stayed quiet. But it wasn't the quiet of fear. It was the quiet of people realizing something important. Because now, this wasn't just a moment. It was a commitment. And commitment makes enemies. But it also makes history. Ali looked out the window one more time. The sun was starting to drop. And Ali knew. Today wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Because hate doesn't disappear overnight. It fights back. And tomorrow, Earl Miller would wake up and feel the weight of what he'd done. But now, he had something he never had before. A reason to stand. Muhammad Ali left that diner later than he planned. The speaking engagement had to wait. The schedule had to bend. Because some moments are bigger than time. When Ali finally stood up from the booth, the black family rose too. The father shook Ali's hand with both of his hands like he was holding on to hope. "I'll never forget this," the father said. Ali nodded. "Don't forget it," Ali replied. "Teach it." The mother hugged Ali gently, careful, almost like she didn't want to believe he was real. Then she stepped back and wiped her tears. "Thank you," she whispered. Ali smiled warmly. "Ain't no need to thank me," Ali said. "Just live free." The little boy looked up at Ali one last time. "Are you gonna come back?" he asked. Ali grinned. "I might," he said. "And if I do, you better be here to tell me you're doing great in school." The boy nodded like he'd just been handed a mission. Then the family walked out. Not running. Not shrinking. Not rushing like they were trespassing. They walked out slowly. Like they belonged in the daylight. That was the first real victory. Not the sheriff leaving. Not the trucks driving away. That family walking out with dignity. Earl watched them go, hands trembling slightly. Then he turned to Ali. "I don't know how to thank you," Earl said again, voice broken. Ali smiled. "You don't thank me," Ali said. "You prove it." Earl swallowed hard. "I will." Ali leaned in, speaking low. "You already started," Ali said. "And remember what I told you. I'll be checking on you." Earl nodded, eyes wet. "I'll be ready," he whispered. Ali stepped toward the door with his crew. His camera clicked one last time. Click. Brown threw his arms around Earl like Earl was family. "You better stay strong, man," shouted. Dundee shook Earl's hand firmly. "Keep that door open," said. Earl nodded. "I will," he repeated, almost like he was trying to convince himself. Then Ali paused at the doorway. He turned back and looked at the diner. At the people still sitting inside. At the empty window where the sign had been. He lifted his chin. And he said something soft but powerful. "You know what makes a man great?" The diner went silent again. Ali smiled. "It ain't how hard he hits. It's how hard he can change." And then Ali walked out. Ding, ding. The bell rang. The door closed. And Earl Miller was left standing there. A man who had just stepped into a new life. That night, Earl didn't sleep. Not because he was excited. Because he was terrified. He sat in the diner after closing, staring at the trash can where the sign had been thrown. He kept thinking about his father. His grandfather. His childhood. All those old lessons. All those hateful jokes. All those times he turned people away without even thinking. And for the first time in his life, he felt sick about it. Outside, he heard trucks pass by. Slow. Too slow. Like they were watching. He saw headlights creep past the windows. He saw shadows. He heard laughter. He heard yelling from the road. He didn't open the door. But he didn't put the sign back either. And that was the second victory. Because courage isn't always loud. Sometimes courage is just not giving in. The next day, a few regular customers didn't show up. And that hurt. The day after that, more didn't show up. And that hurt even more. Earl's hands shook when he counted the money at night. And for a moment, he almost convinced himself that the sheriff was right. That he was going to lose everything. That doing the right thing would destroy him. But then, around lunchtime on the fourth day, a new car pulled into the dirt lot. A black man stepped out. He looked nervous. He walked to the door carefully like he expected to be chased away. Earl's stomach tightened. This was the true test. No Muhammad Ali now. No cameras. No crowd. Just Earl. Just the moment. The bell rang. Ding, ding. The man stepped inside and looked around quietly. Earl walked forward, hands shaking. But he smiled. "Welcome," Earl said. "What can I get you?" The man blinked like he didn't believe what he heard. Then he smiled back. "I'll take a coffee," the man said softly. Earl nodded. "Coming right up." And in that moment, Earl knew he was going to be all right. Because every act of courage creates a path. And once you start walking that path, even fear can't pull you back. Weeks passed, then months, then years. And Muhammad Ali did exactly what he promised. Every time he traveled through Georgia, he stopped at that diner. Not always with cameras. Not always with a crew. Sometimes it was just him. Sometimes he brought friends. Sometimes he just came in, sat down, and ate. And every time he walked through that door, Earl felt the same thing. That pressure, that reminder, that expectation. And Earl used it like fuel. In 1975, Earl hired his first black employee. It caused talk, whispers, anger. Some people refused to eat there. But others came back. Some came out of curiosity. Some came because they were tired of hate. Some came because they saw Earl changing. And it made them wonder if they could change too. By 1978, almost half the staff at Miller's Diner was black. Earl didn't brag about it. He didn't act like a hero. He just kept working, kept serving, kept opening that door. And the sheriff didn't like it. He kept trying to pressure Earl. He tried inspections. He tried rumors. He tried threats. But something had changed. Earl wasn't alone anymore. The town was watching now. Not just the angry ones. The quiet ones. The ones who had been ashamed for years. And slowly, the sheriff's power began to fade. Because power only survives when people accept it. And Earl stopped accepting it. In 1980, Earl Miller wrote a letter to Muhammad Ali. He wrote it slowly, carefully, because Earl had never been good with words. But he needed Ali to know. He needed him to understand. When Ali received the letter, later said Ali read it in silence. Then he sat back, and he didn't speak for a long time. The letter said, "You knocked some sense into me without throwing a punch." It said, "That day in 1974 became the most important day of my life." It said, "I told my children and the story dozens of times." And then it ended with the line Earl was most proud of. "You taught me that strength isn't about hate. It's about having the courage to change." Ali kept that letter, and he never bragged about it. Because Ali didn't need to. That wasn't his kind of victory. Earl Miller died in 1992. And before he passed, he told his family one last thing. He said, "If you ever speak to Muhammad Ali again, tell him that cheeseburger he ate in 1974 was the bravest meal I ever served." His family reached out. They told Ali. And Ali reportedly smiled the kind of smile you only get when you know. You did something that mattered. Not for fame. Not for money. Not for history books. But for a human soul, years later, the diner building still stood. But it wasn't a diner anymore. It was turned into a small community center. A place for meetings. A place for kids. A place for people trying to build something better. And on the wall, there was a plaque. It read, "On this site in 1974, Muhammad Ali taught us that the most powerful weapon against hate is not a fist, but an open heart." And that is the real legacy. Because anybody can knock a man down with violence. But it takes a true champion to lift a man up with words. So if you ever feel like the world is too broken, too hateful, too far gone, remember this. Change doesn't always start in courts, or in government, or in speeches. Sometimes, it starts with one moment, one conversation, one person brave enough to walk through a door and refuse to accept hate as normal. Muhammad Ali showed us that you don't need to throw a punch to knock out hate. Sometimes all you need is the courage to speak the truth and give someone a chance to be better.